And, a lot of people are trying to do things like follow healthy diets and, eat right. You're trying different stuff. You're doing paleo, you're doing keto, you're doing vegan, you're doing carnivore, whatever it is. And you're like, well, why doesn't it work for me? Why doesn't it work for me? And if you've ever struggled with that, like if you've ever tried different diet types, like this is a very familiar feeling, like this kind of confusion around like what is actually healthy. I don't know. It seems like every year there's like a different trend, and one year fat is bad, and the next year all you're supposed to eat is fat, and you're like, how are you supposed to even know what's the truth? Right? It's like super confusing. So what we are going to do today is help you understand where those different ideas come from, why different diet types work for different people, and kind of like why those founders were all in for that, why they were like, no, this is the way, and why it was the way for them, but it might not be the way for you, right? So this is all what we're going to take a look at and really dive into. I'm going to, let's see, share my screen. Boom, boom. And today we're going to talk about what's your digestive type, right? Helping you understand how to identify this so that all of those confusing questions dissolve and you can stop wasting time, stop feeling confused at the store, and start knowing exactly what to do for you based on your digestive type, your constitution type, and the season, right? Because remember, like Ayurveda and life is cyclical. It's really interesting when we look at the world today. We used to run on lunar calendars. We followed those natural ebbs and flows, and we were following different foods per season because that was what was available, right? And now we live in this artificial environment where we want to do the same thing all year round, no changing. We just want to do it like this. And that's a very masculine way of doing things, right? It's not the feminine way, like as women and beings with a feminine side, because men and women carry that feminine energy. We all have both. It's important to be able to be flexible, right? So looking at when did these artificial ways of like eating the same food year round come into play, right? This is very recent, actually. And there is one particular item in your kitchen that is contributing to a lot of health problems without you even knowing it. And I'm curious if anybody has a guess what that is. You can type it in the chat or you can unmute yourself and say. Let's see, I see something in the chat. Butter, sugar, nope, that's good. Yes, and I'm talking about an appliance. I'm not talking about food. I'm talking about an appliance. Toaster, okay. What has been, microwave, that's getting closer. One more guess, anybody? No? Boom, the refrigerator. Because listen, if you didn't have a refrigerator, what would you eat fresh every single day? You would get fresh food from a local market, and it would be full of life, full of vibrancy, because here's the truth. Whatever you are putting into your body, that's what's forming you. So if you want to stay youthful, but you're eating old food with no life force, good luck, right? Good luck, because there's nothing alive in like in the freezer, so many of these things that are like these Weight Watcher meals and all this stuff, there's no life force in it. And it's all because it's artificially like kept in refrigerators. And I have one too. Like I do. But I really try not to use it as much as possible. And I go to the store multiple times a week. I don't just go once. Like, I do some dry good shopping, but to get the fresh produce, I'm going back. I like going to the store to get that stuff. And I want it to be young because I'm trying to age gracefully. Right? This is my goal, and healthily, so I can feel really good in my body. So just thinking about the food systems that have been created and how much they take us away from actually being connected to what's growing, what's in season, like this is a really important part of this revolution that I want you all to experience today by learning this material. So again, why do you care? Well, because your health is the foundation of who you are, right? Like, when you're sick, when you don't feel good, when you don't have energy, how can you show up in the world in the way you're meant to? Like, you can't, you won't, you don't. You're just tired and you're like, I have no energy. Nobody wants to live like that, right? We all want to live like feeling good and excited and inspired and uplifting our family members and all the things. So starting with your food, if you're not feeling amazing, if you're struggling with, gas, bloating, constipation, acid reflux, feeling tired after you eat, these are signs that something's up. And, in the West, we get very conditioned to just accept discomfort as part of like the process, but it's really, it's your body trying to get your attention, right? So let's start to learn what those things mean so you can use them for your own knowledge. So yeah, why do we care? Because again, your body is the vehicle for all of your achievements in life. So what is Agni? And I'll just give you a few terms to help you understand the tradition that I'm teaching from, because I am an Ayurvedic practitioner, and this is the language we use, and it's pretty simple, but you don't have to remember it. So Agni means fire in Sanskrit, and it's the word that we use to describe your digestive health, which makes sense, right? Because like traditionally we used to cook over fires. If you had a little tiny fire, it's hard to cook a lot, right? You can't cook that much. You can barely get stuff warm up. If a fire is too big, what does it do? It consumes everything, right? Nothing's left, and it goes too fast. When a fire is balanced, when the fire is just the right size, we can cook things at just the right speed and temperature. And this is an analogy for what's going on in your body, right? For your digestive capacity, your digestive health. It is a fire. Bringing us to, you're not what you eat. You are what you can digest, assimilate, and absorb. And I say that because I see so many of my clients making valiant efforts to be healthy. They are really like, they're going, buying all organic food, which everyone should do. And I'll tell you why by the end. And you will, hopefully after this slide, be convinced for health reasons and ecological. But, you can eat all this healthy food, be taking all these expensive supplements. And, at the end of the day, if your body doesn't absorb them, you're literally just paying for expensive poop. And nobody wants to do that, right? Like, we want our products to work. We want to feel good. We want to feel strong. So if you are doing all the right things and you're still not getting the results, it's really important to look at why, right? So what is happening with the digestive capacity? Again, I made that analogy of the fire because it's really helpful to understand what's happening with the food in your body. So basically, you eat something, hopefully you chew it pretty well, and then you swallow it, and it enters the stomach where it's then churned up, and there's some HCl, a lot of different acids and enzymes kind of mixed up. And from here, it passes through the gut, right? As a bolus. This is what we call the massive food, BOLUS. Now, if you have too much of the digestive juices, it will kind of incinerate everything. And like, have you ever had anyone in your life, you're like, dang, like you are always hungry and you are always eating? Or maybe you felt that way. Like you see those people just that have these like incredible appetites and they never seem to get full. This is why, right? Their fire is really high and it's burning through the food too quickly. Now, what happens? Let me ask you all this. Have you ever put a log onto a fire and the log didn't burn up all the way? Has anybody had this experience? Raise your hand, nod. I see some nods. Okay, great. What do you think this would translate to in your body if you didn't have enough digestive juice or fire to digest your food? What do you think happens? Anyone can, you can unmute yourself or type in the chat what you think. Okay, let's do something. Yeah, sludge. It just sits there. Indigestion. Correct. Yep. Inflammation. Yes. Boom. All of those things happen. And it's really interesting because the Ayurvedic concept of inflammation directly ties into undigested food stuff. So if you eat food without a proper appetite and without, like, your body isn't producing enough digestive enzymes, you're eating the wrong food combinations, whatever it might be, you're going to end up with all this stuff, this uncooked kind of log stuff, clogging the whole system, right? It's the same way, like when you have a fire that's too low and you put it in the stove, you open it up and that thing is just full of ash. It's full of like little bits of log, and it's hard to build a new fire in there, right? Because there's not space, because the whole oven, the whole stove is clogged. So you have to clean that out before you can build a proper fire, right? You can keep trying to build a fire in there, but it's really difficult. And this is a great analogy for what happens in your body, right? When that stuff builds up, when the undigested food builds up in the small intestines and the colon, you have to clean it out. Otherwise, you're never going to have the digestive capacity that's really going to support your health and vibrancy, right? And how can you tell if this is happening? Well, one way is looking at your tongue, right? Next time, if you're not already doing it, next time you brush your teeth, start paying attention to how much white stuff is on your tongue. If your tongue is clean and clear, that means your whole digestive tract is clean and clear. But if it's got a coating on it, then that means, uh-oh, I better pay attention. Any questions so far? We all understanding? Cool. So what are these 4 digestive health types? Well, remember, they're all related to the kind of these states of fire, and balanced is the goal. Balanced is where you can kind of eat whatever and you'll feel good. Like you'll be energized from it. You're gonna have regular bowel movements once or twice a day. You feel great. You don't have, like, you have a very clear tongue like this. This is what we want for you. Now, there are 3 imbalanced or out of balance types that we are really going to go into. And one of them is this kind of irregular, like sometimes you're fine. Sometimes you're fine, sometimes you're not. Then there is the too hot one, where like that fire is always burning, right? It's that person we talked about who's always hungry. And you're like, geez, we just stopped for food like 2 hours ago. Like you're trying to go on a road trip and it takes twice as long because you keep having to stop and feed this like endless hunger machine. And then we've got too cold, right? This slow type. And this is where people are gaining weight, right? So if weight is something that you struggle with, pay attention to this when we get there. because I'll give you lots of clues on how to manage that. All right. So what is this? What is this irregular type? How can you tell if you have it, right? So it's the gassy one, right? It's associated with excess vata. The emotional tendency is fear and anxiety. So I have a question. Have you ever seen a drawing of like a scared person? Anybody? Like you've seen an illustration or something? Yeah, like depicting a scared person. What do you notice about their body type? Like someone who's anxious and nervous. Any guesses? Okay. I see one. Let's see. Yeah, Magda nailed it. Slim. Like they tend to be thinner. It's this nervous stomach, right? Sometimes it's cool. Sometimes they feel okay. Yeah, thin, right? Slim, thin, sometimes pale. They don't have like that healthy glow that you get when your body's functioning well. And they'll have things like, dry skin, constipation. There will be craving for like hot, spicy foods, fried foods. And there will be this like tendency to get really tired after eating. There's also this like tendency to not want to eat a big meal because it makes you tired, right? So this is why these people tend to snack, because they don't want to eat so much food that it takes their energy away. So if you notice that is you, don't worry, I've got solutions for you. But yeah, it's that nervous stomach. And these are the people that are like eating in the car all the time, just the like the popcorn or the chips or something, or the nuts as they go, and never cooking like this. Yeah, what causes this? It's eating old food. It's eating leftovers, right? It's this constant snacking and eating dried up foods, right? If you're eating dry stuff, I mean, your body needs a certain amount of liquid to be able to digest, right? So if you don't have the liquid in the food, your body contributes its own liquid, which actually comes from blood volume. Like, I don't know if you all know this, but when you're thirsty, it's because your blood volume is dropping due to dehydration. And so you're adding more water to buck up the blood and circulation. Isn't that cool? So when you're not doing that, you're constantly putting your body in this dehydrated state. And you don't want to do that, because that's aging, right? Like I say this all the time, but we're going from being plump grapes when we're born to dried out raisins. And so we want to slow down the process by eating plump, juicy foods, foods that are full of life and their own kind of juices. So if you're eating too much dry, raw, cold food, like salads, actually, there's this idea in the West that like salad is like the ultimate healthy food. Maybe. But my experience, and from the lens of Ayurveda, is that salad can be quite hard to digest because it's cold and raw. And cold and raw foods take a lot more energy for your body to deal with, because the walls of the cells in the food, whether it's plant or animal, are not broken down. So it takes a lot more work to get in there. And when we cook the food, we're kind of dissolving those walls so that we can absorb more of the nutrients. Wrong food combining. Who's ever heard of food combining before? Anybody here? Food combining? Magda has. She's come to some of my stuff, so she's kind of the expert. But food combining, like there are certain foods that go together and other foods that do not. So understanding that is so important. And that was something that, I really struggled with for years. Like I was eating the wrong kinds of foods. I would eat things like, man, I loved Rudy's pizza. There was this like down this place in Lawrence, Kansas, downtown. And I'd go there all the time as a kid. And like, I'd eat pizza and salad. And it was just like, everything about that meal was so terrible for my digestive type and my constitution type. And in retrospect, that's also like, I started having back pain as a 14-year-old kid. And I know it was related to my food and what I was eating, what I was not digesting. And that gunk was then being pushed into my deeper tissue as inflammation. So never underestimate the power of these small daily habits to really impact your life, right? What you eat really, really matters. So ice water. This is an interesting thing that we do in the West. And I've always I never liked it even as a kid, but we're asking our bodies to cook and digest everything, right? Isn't it interesting? Like, have you ever gone to cook something? So you turn the stove on and then you were like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw some ice cubes in this pan. Like, nobody does that because that wouldn't make sense, right? Ice slows down your digestion. So drinking ice water with the meal is a real recipe for disrupting your digestive process, for making your digestion weaker, right? That's why in Ayurveda, we recommend room temp or tea, a small cup of tea with a meal. You don't want to have too much water either, again, because it's diluting the digestive juices. So you want just enough to kind of help spread everything and moisten the food, but not so much that it's flooded, right? Everything's a balance. And you want to be mindful about irregular meal times, right? If you have this irregular kind of digestion, it's really important to be consistent and not just snack all the time. Because it's also not just what you eat, but it's how. Like, do you give full attention to your food? Are you giving it the attention it deserves? Or do you kind of like not even look at it? You're like just kind of shoveling food in your mouth while you're doing something else, no attention given to, like, literally there are these 3 things we have to do to stay alive, right? Eat food, breathe air, drink water. And we do so much of that without awareness. So if you can bring awareness to your relationship with your food as a vessel, as a vehicle for nourishing your divine body, right? This gift of the human experience is given through our senses. I promise it will change your whole life. Like, it's really interesting. I can tell so much about a person by watching them eat, right? I notice things like, do they give thanks? Do they pay attention? Are they fully engaged in the food? Or are they like, I can see someone like on their phone, not even looking, barely chewing. I know what their health habits are like. I know what their I know what their body looks like on the inside. So this is just an invitation to become more mindful, right? And fully present with the gift of our bodies and food, right? Food is the biggest gift. We're just like, we don't even have to do anything anymore. Everyone does the work for us. We just go to the store and then we cook it. But we're really blessed. We don't have to go harvest and stuff in the same way. Okay, so how do you balance this type? Again, it's that paying attention, right? Sitting down to eat, no multitasking. And I invite all of you to try that for 1 week, to eat without doing anything else. Everyone has 10 minutes, 3 times a day. So try this. If you're having a lot of gas and bloating and like things like that, these spices are amazing. Cumin, hing, black pepper, ginger. You're welcome to screenshot this, or it will be available via recording. Of course, having warm beverages and avoiding caffeine, right? If you already have a nervous kind of body type, nervous digestion, caffeine does not support that. I worked in cafes for years when I was a teenager and a young adult. And man, I was so unhealthy because I would have no appetite. I would have no appetite for food. And then I was just super skinny and didn't feel good. So don't do that. Don't do that if you can avoid it. Let's see. Laura says she's thinking about foreign countries she's been to. And yeah, the ice water and cold food makes sense. And I know it's just a cultural thing. I don't know when that started. But absolutely, we can benefit from learning these multicultural practices, right? And that's what you all are doing today. We're learning these practices from, the Vedic tradition, which includes not only India, but these northern regions like even Afghanistan, Pakistan, that whole area shared a very similar culture for many, many years. So let's honor that and just say thank you for that wisdom that we're receiving from them. Thank you for that reminder. So what can you do if you have that digestive type? I won't read this to you, but again, if this is you, this is the place where I recommend you take a screenshot, or it will be in the recording. But really, these keywords are the most important. Like, more than memorizing lists, I really like to teach a principle, right? I think that that's much easier to understand. So we're going to practice. I'll just ask you all a question. If I was Vishama type and someone told me that I do better when I have regular meal times and my food is well cooked, well spiced, moist, and fresh, and that's the best for me. Okay, so say I'm at a restaurant and I'm looking at the menu and I've got some choices. Okay, I could have, let's say, I could have toast, or like some toast. I could have oatmeal, or I could have salad. Say it's like brunch time, so we've got breakfast and lunch. I could have salad, or I could have like, a Cobb salad, or like some soup. Which of those things would be best for this person? So if you had the choice of toast, Cobb salad, soup, oatmeal, like this. Soup is a great option. Yeah, soup is really good. Great. And actually, they could have oatmeal too. That would be fine. I gave multiple. Yep, great. What is the thing that person should not have out of that list? So again, toast, oatmeal, soup, salad. Salad, that's right. So this is the person, that shouldn't have the salad. And I like to give you these practical examples so that you can start to put it into practice, right? Because this is the real world. So, you can have breakfast can be avocado toast, but with butter and stuff to help make the digestion easier. Oatmeal with ghee and cinnamon and dates is really good. Lunch, like stews or soups, perfect. Really moist foods, it's perfect. And then snacks, you want juicy fruits. Like, don't go for dried fruits. Okay. Any questions here? Or are we all good? All good. Okay, awesome. Okay, this is a really fun one to teach. So this is the hot and fast one, right? And the key word for people with this kind of digestion is hangry. Like, these are the people you're like, oh my God, you are a demon. Do we have snacks in the car for the road trip? Because if we don't, I'm not driving with you. And I can tell you, like, my ex-husband and I, the place where we would have the most arguments was always in the car on a road trip when we both got hungry. It was not a good scene. And part of it was for this reason, right? We both tended towards this digestive type at one point. So, you have this when you cannot skip a meal, or if you do, you tend to get a hot flash, you'll get nauseous, you'll get very upset. You can only think about food. The emotional tendency is they want to be in control of everything, right? This isn't related to Pitta dosha, if anybody remembers Pitta from last week. But like, these are also, this personality type tends to be the one that is like very controlling about their food, right? Like they're doing extreme diets. They're very like regimented about it as well. And that can be connected. And you might notice that you're really craving sweet, like you want chocolate all the time. Digestion happens super fast. You're having too many bowel movements a day, and like at least like 3 or more. And what this actually causes is, you're not getting that proper nourishment because stuff is moving through your system too fast, right? It's the same thing, like that analogy of the stove and the fire, right? So if you have a wood burning stove and you need your cabin to stay warm all night, well, you don't want the flue to be open too much, because the wood will burn up very quickly and you'll keep having to feed it and get up and feed it. This is the same principle that's happening in people with this digestive type, right? Like there's too much acid that actually needs to be flushed out from the body. We can do that with herbs and Ayurvedic practices for sure. But it can lead to undernourishment, right? Because you're not giving your body enough time to absorb everything, right? So there's that type. What causes it? Well, it's it's a lot of eating, of like overeating hot and spicy foods, a lot of dry foods. Coffee will do this. Coffee messes me up in so many ways, I can't even tell you. Excess sour food. This is interesting. Yogurt, even though it is cold when you eat it, actually heats your body up. And that's interesting because it's a fermented food. So it has a heating impact on your body. So it's not something I recommend eating in the summer so much. You can have yogurt in the fall more, in spring. But right now it's not a great time. Especially don't have it in the afternoons or evenings. If you are really stuck to it, just have it in the morning. If you're drinking a lot of red wine, this is something I'll see a lot too in clients. Like, they're doing pretty well. We're looking at their food. The food looks great. And then, we're like, well, why are you having these symptoms? And oh yeah, well, I drink 2 glasses of red wine a night. Well, got it. Okay. So this builds up, this increases pitta. And if you remember from last week, the pitta is fire with a little bit of water. So it's that element of digestion within your body. And also unresolved trauma can show up in a number of ways as digestive imbalances, right? Because we hold so much stress in the intestines, right? The stomach holds fear, and so do the intestines. And so really looking at the emotional state. And it's interesting because it was actually like these kind of issues that led me to start studying trauma release and somatics and to become a master coach, because I was seeing so many unresolved emotional issues impacting people's health and digestion, and wanted more tools to be able to solve that. So how do you balance that? Well, it's really, it's a number of things, but one is like having cooling foods instead of, so spicy. And look, green things are cooling. Like you can follow the doctrine of signatures here, which is really, really neat. So, don't go for the red, go for the green. That's a very simple principle you can follow. Favoring leafy greens, lentils, not too much raw like this. Having beer instead of wine, which is interesting, because beer is bitter, right? And bitter flavor is balancing to this type of digestion. And just surrender. right? Like if you're a person who's really strict and regimented about the diet, this is where you can just let go and let yourself have a little bit more fun. Like cheat days or whatever people like to call it. And again, here's another sample meal plan. So you can screenshot it, you can take a look. Keywords are fresh, bitter, green. And this digestive type can actually handle salad more than the other one. So that's a difference. Okay, everyone doing good? Any questions? No? Okay. Oh, this is actually the epidemic that most Americans are suffering from, is this slow or dull digestion type called Manda Agni. And it's not just food, it is food, but it's also a lifestyle issue in the United States, right? So how do you know if you have this type? Man, like you gain weight very easily. You feel like you just look at food and you're like, I didn't even eat it. I just smelled it and I just gained 2 pounds. So this like feeling of frustration and not understanding, why is this happening to me? This is that slow type, right? And it's often, these people who are eating like cookies, candy, chocolate, and who don't have real hunger. A lot of people don't know what it really is to be hungry. They just eat because it's time, right? Oh, it's breakfast time, so I eat. Oh, somebody told me once that, breakfast should be my biggest meal of the day. So that's what I'm going to have, even though I really don't want to. And there can be an emotional association with unresolved grief, right? Or feeling like victim to your circumstances. And the lifestyle is inactive, right? You're not getting a lot of exercise. You're driving most places. You don't walk. I mean, it's really, I sit a lot and it makes me crazy, but I also I get up every day and I make sure the first thing I do when I wake up is go get sunlight on my skin and in my eyes to stimulate correct hormone production for proper vitamin D synthesis. And then I walk, I move my legs, I move my body. It's very important for this type. If weight is something, weight and slow digestion or something you struggle with, you have to move. So yeah, it's fascinating. Leg health and digestive health are both related to the fire element. So if you can get up, if this is something you struggle with, you're watching this, get up and do 100 squats every morning and then walk for 45 minutes, 30 minutes minimum. And just doing that alone, I promise everything will change. You'll get a better appetite. You'll feel more energized. You'll start to look better. In just 100 squats, 45 minutes. It's an hour of your day taking care of your body. Huge changes. And this is also, a wrong food combining thing, but yeah, because you can be eating really well and still have this digestive type if you don't exercise. Like you actually need to sweat every single day. It's as important to your overall health as urination and pooping. Like we need to do those things. Otherwise waste's build up in the body. So if that isn't happening for you regularly, it's time to take a look at that. Okay. So how can you balance this? This is one of those places where it's like less is really more. And these cup of food guidelines, okay, you can skip breakfast unless you're really hungry. Just have a cup of fresh ginger tea, much better. And start to learn how it feels in your body to be actually hungry, right? And notice when you reach for food without real hunger, what is the emotion that's associated, right? What's the thing that's pushing you to do that? Oh, pardon me. So is there an emotional trigger? For lunch, you could have something like a kale and lentil roasted beet salad. That'd be really good. And this digestive type, like beef is not your friend. Most meat is not your friend. If you do want to have meat, rabbit, rabbit and some fish, maybe chicken soup favoring white meat, things like this. Khichdi using quinoa instead of rice. Like quinoa is a little more drying. Turkey tacos. I'm giving a lot of meat examples, but if you're vegetarian, there's so many other options as well. Like having the lentils is great. And these people, like, they can have the drier fruits like apples, cherries, the carrots, kind of things like that are okay. And they also need less liquid, right? There's this, again, this like, you need to drink however many ounces of water based on your body weight. I mean, you really need to pay attention to your activity level and how much you hold water. Because some people need less water than others, and this is the truth. And so you can kind of see that by looking at your body type, right? Because all of this is really to help you get out of this one size fits all paradigm that we've been conditioned into in the West, and start looking at, well, what is my body type, and what is the phase of life I'm in? Because hormonally, we have 3 very distinct phases. We're not the same person. There's pre-menstruation, there's menstruation, and then menopause. Like, you're a different body type in all of those. So learning how to honor that and adjust your lifestyle and your diet accordingly is very important. It's very important. So just this reminder of exercise. You got to exercise to get that digestion going. Let's see, there's something in the chat. Can you have combo body types? Yes, and you can also have combo digestion types, which can feel a little confusing, but great question. So dry, lightly cooked. This Manda type still has cold digestion, so you don't want to have cold foods, but you don't want to have as much fat here. So they can handle a little more dry, especially as compared to like the dry type, like that gassy type. So these dry grains like corn and mung and red lentils. But really, for everybody, right, there are things that we can do to support our digestive type and health, no matter who you are, right? Buy local, buy seasonal. I mean, I don't even know, like, it's kind of sad that most people don't really know what's in season. Does anybody know what fruits and vegetables are naturally in season right now in your region that you live in? If you know, Magda's nodding. Yeah. Most people don't. Everything's imported from another state. What's actually available in your area? Spinach. Yeah. So get in touch with that. What can your local climate support? And eating in that way, in the way that matches, is really important. Corn. So everybody should buy local, buy seasonal, eat fresh foods. The less time food is in your fridge, the better it is for you. I promise you. The less refrigeration you expose your food to, the better. I mean, I remember, so like my mother's German, and we would go visit my Oma as a kid, and she would cook pork a lot. That was a staple food, and then put it in the cupboard like until the evening. We would just eat that same meat later without it ever being in the fridge. And like the fridge at her house and in most European households is like this big. It's tiny. We do not need these, like, it's just this American confusion, like these huge, do you need a fridge the size of a car? But we have them, and like, and think, I don't know, we're really taught that, oh, we're going to fill it with food. But man, you should be going to the store more often. You should be going to the farmer's market. You should find 2 farmers market, one during the week and one on the weekend, and make friends with those people growing your food, and, you know, build new relationships and say hi to your community, instead of like the sterile grocery store where it's like some unhappy checker that, like, do they really want to be there getting paid no money with weird lights? And it's like that. No. You know? There's a better way to connect with each other. So let's see. Yeah, eggs are not even refrigerated. Exactly. And a lot of root vegetables at the farmer's market. Okay, here is the one thing I want you all to understand about eating conventional produce, about eating conventional food that is not talked about. And this is a tragedy, because this ingredient should be illegal, in my professional opinion, as a healthcare practitioner. So glyphosate. Glyphosate is the main ingredient in what we call Roundup. And it has terrible impacts on your body. And it is also the #1 pesticide used in conventional food. So if your food does not say organic, it has glyphosate. I just want everyone to understand that. Unless your food says organic, it definitely has glyphosate. Why do you care? Well, the health impacts of glyphosate are intense and really many. It blows my mind, the things that are listed as safe that are actually so toxic for human bodies. It can disrupt your endocrine system, which can possibly cause weight gain. It binds important metals in your body and kicks them out. It actually kills beneficial bacteria in your gut. It's linked to cancer. It damages cellular DNA. But this, like, just look at this. It acts as a broad spectrum antibiotic and is killing commensal bacteria. And why do you care? Well, your gut is where 70% of your immune system is. And your immune system consists of a lot of non-self cells, right? We're hosting, like, we're trading them, we're feeding them, we're giving them room and board in exchange for helping us know when invaders come in. And then basically we eradicate them when you eat glyphosate, and it actually distorts the microvilli. So the microvilli are these like finger-like protrusions that are sticking out of the walls of your small intestine, and they're doing this, and they're passing food along, right? They're doing this. When you eat glyphosate, they get distorted and stunted like this. So they don't have the same surface area, and they're not able to actually sort the food efficiently, right? So this is coming back to the, like, you're not just what you eat, you're what you can digest, assimilate, and absorb. And when you're eating conventional food that's covered in glyphosate, you're damaging those microvilli. You're damaging your body, making it really hard to digest your food. So it's ironic, because people will, they do this to save money. I mean, there's the only one reason that you buy conventional produce, to save money, but you're not. You're actually setting yourself up to spend more money on your health, right? To spend more money on sickness, to spend more money on things later down the road. So if I had to choose one thing for everybody to do, just one thing, filter your water, like high quality filter. In Kansas, I mean, I don't know if y'all have ever looked at the water table poison levels, but there are areas in like southern Kansas, especially around these farming communities, where these poisons are at 270 times the legal limit. Nobody controls it. So you need to filter your water. Don't just drink it from the tap ever. And eat organic. Yeah. And I don't say that to scare you. I say that because I want you to be informed and educated and understand that there are so many things happening that we're not being taught about, but that you should understand and you deserve to understand. So we are just about at time. Let me see if there's anything in the chat. Yeah, yes. Bottled water is not often filtered. Bottled water has its own set of problems too, right? Like this plastic leaching. I mean, it's really crazy. So many of the habits and things that are being done by the masses are really not healthy for us. So we get to be revolutionary on an individual level and say, there's a better way. It's a more intelligent way to care for our bodies and care for the earth and care for each other, right? That's really, whatever we do to the earth, we do to ourselves. And when we have plastic bottles, I mean, that also blows my mind. Like so much stuff is getting thrown away. There's not even recycling at so many people's houses in Kansas. That just like, I can't handle it. I go to my friends' houses. I'm like, what are you doing with that? They're like, it's trash. I'm like, oh God. So this is really a revolution, about, it's a lifestyle, right? Ayurveda is a lifestyle that puts you in touch with yourself, with the earth, with the natural rhythms and flows of life. And that's your invitation. I don't have enough time to get into Amma today. It's something we can talk about another time. I guess I'll just say a couple words. There's a few minutes. So what is Amma? This is that stuff I was talking about, like you can see on your tongue. Like I have a thin white coating, and that's okay. But this is a pretty good tongue. Like if your tongue looks like this, yeah, you're doing pretty good. Like I'm happy for you. When you have that white stuff on your tongue, again, it's undigested food that's lining the whole gastrointestinal tract. And this is how we understand kind of low-grade inflammation. So start looking at your tongue every day, pay attention, notice what foods do you eat that create that thicker coating on the tongue. When you eat other foods, what leaves your tongue clear. I personally, I try to stop eating by 7 p.m. It doesn't always work. Sometimes I have dinner late, but giving my body a break to digest, right? Like if I don't eat for 15 hours from the evening before till breakfast the next day, my digestion and tongue tend to look better and be more clear. Right? So those simple practices, because your body knows what to do if you give it a chance. But if you're always snacking, like the body is just constantly digesting and doesn't really have time to do other stuff. Yeah, of course. If anybody wants to go deeper, as always, feel free to reach out. I have created a gut health reset course that takes you into these principles much more deeply and actually takes you through a cleanse that's very simple. It's not full fasting. It's having a mono diet, one food type for 5 days, plus some herbal teas and herbal medicine to really support you in cleaning house. And the other thing that happens is that glyphosate stuff will build up in your system. So sometimes we have to do glyphosate cleanses. Isn't that crazy? Like that's how polluted the earth has gotten from our behavior. But yeah, as always, reach out if you're looking for more support in Ayurveda or coaching, whatever it is, or if you just have questions, I am a resource for you. I wanted to thank all of you for joining, for being here. Yeah. Thank you so much.